Okay, so we've been able to squeeze out a good bunch of, an extra bunch of detail here through these ramps and whatnot. We'll continue to tweak, but for now, we want to throw another big ingredient into the mix, and that is the actual noise. We want to take advantage of our advected noise. You remember the rest and rest two fields store. I'm going to turn the lighting off from the viewport here for a second. They're going to store kind of rest coordinates that are advected. They're carried through the system by the same velocity, and we're going to look at how to get that texture noise in there, and specifically how we're going to have different styles of texture noise for the different smoke, fire, etc. Anyway, so what do I mean? Each one of these, smoke, fire intensity, and fire temperature, has this noise tab. If you look at it, it actually resembles the unified noise VOP. So let's take a look here. I'm making a temporary grid. I'll make it like 400 by 400, something crazy like that. And what that will allow me to do is I'm just going to make a unified noise VOP under the point VOP thing. Unified noise. And look, it's more or less the same thing. So see all that? Same thing, signature, noise type, frequency, offset. Boom, 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 boom. Same thing with the fractal, the warping. It's all the same. So I want to put it here just so you can picture what is the pattern that's being advected through everything. That's position. Let's put that into color. One of the weird things about this unified noise thing is that I find, for some reason, and maybe they'll fix this by the time you see this video, who knows, when you make changes in here, they don't show up. They don't show up immediately over there. So like if I change simplex to periodic flow, looks the same. If I change it to alligator, looks the same. Don't really know why. If I force this thing to recook, you'll see it. I don't know what that's about, but that's what happens. So let's try sticking with the default, the simplex improved Perlin. And remember, I'm just going to keep doing that. If you're wondering why I'm doing that, it's just to jostle it. So let's take a look through here. So the simplex improved Perlin, again, it looks like this. What kind of values are we getting out of that? When we look over here, the color is more or less ranging from 0 to 1 right now. That's pretty good. I can go ahead and add in, for example, fractal noise on top of the simplex noise is what this is saying. So the standard one is what it's what your users are going to use. And once again, turn this off, turn it on. And you can see it was basically the original noise. So take note of this dark spot here, here, and these two here. If I turn this off, or rather, if I turn it off here, see, dot, and these two dots here. So it's the same underlying pattern. It just has a fractal on top of it, as you can see. I tend to keep linearity where it is. You might want to increase the roughness, maybe to like 0.8. Once again, look how much fuzzier that is. It's not random. It still has cohesion to it. But this is what we want. We want this kind of detail to be present in the shading, the fire shading there. The lattice wrap and the gradient wrap, I like to use the gradient wrap. As you can see, it widens the peaks or valleys of the noise output. That kind of makes it have a little bit more of a bubbly flavor to it. I mean, it will be, anything that we do at this level will be a little more subtle, but see how we have this kind of bubbly effect that I like here? I don't know, I think it looks nice. And other things like gain, the gain kind of works like, well, you'll see. There we go. It's kind of like a contrast where it's making the dark areas super dark, the white areas super white. One is too much probably, but that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. It helps to really see our noise patterns sometimes. Maybe like 0.8 is good. Once again, this will be the kind of stuff that you'll probably spend the most time on with your sim to try to see this kind of stuff showing up. Maybe even 0.7. And we're not going to use this actual grid here. This is, again, just to give you an idea of what the noises look like, so that you can, when you see these parameters on the other thing there, on the actual shader, you'll know kind of what you're getting into. Going back into here, on our pyro thing itself, so here was the last thing that we had. Let's take a look at the smoke. Let's do the smoke one first. So enable it. I usually change this to scale, where we're multiplying it times the original field, simplex. Frequency of 5 is pretty decent at this scale. Put the standard one on, like I said. We'll throw the roughness up to 0.8. We'll do that kind of 0.5y gradient bubbliness. And now let's actually see what this looks like rendered. And real quick before we do, we want to be able to turn on this stuff on and off and not worry about that. So as a little bit of housekeeping, we should always force this to be the thing that renders. So we turned off the asterisk under candidate object, so nothing will render by default. That's saying, hey, collect all the things that are on, render those if they're on. This is saying now nothing can be accidentally on, and this must be the thing that gets rendered. So now it won't matter if it's on or off. So in any case, now that that's set, let's do our next render, and let's see what that bit of noise that will get us here on the smoke. I'll just let that render, and we'll continue in a second. So here we are. Looks like the noise. So it knocked out some of the smoke. And looking at the alpha here, I can see it's added some detail, and it's just also just kind of reduced a lot of what we see in general. So to compensate for that, I would say let us go back to the shader here. Let's kick it up on the, let's see, where are we? There we go. We could kick it up on the amplitude here. So I'll say something like 1.3 maybe, just to add like maybe 30% more in. And actually, for that matter, we might even want to have some more gain here just to bring the contrast up to really see that happening. So I'm going to render again. And again, we don't really need to wait for the whole thing. I will for the sake of the lesson. But for you guys at home, just, once it starts rendering, just kind of like focus the render over here. Remember, you just click on the end play here, and we'll actually be able to just say, hey, just focus our efforts over here. So there we go. So now if I go back and forth, you can see a subtle difference. There we go. So compared to this, we go, now I got that. So it's subtle, but worthwhile all the same. And we're definitely going to see it on the fire itself now. If you wanted bigger pieces taken out, you could reduce the frequency of the noise. I think that we already have some pretty decent detail in here anyway, so I don't want to mess with it too much. That the subtle, thing that we're getting here is probably enough for now, and we're getting some of that smoke back here anyway. Cool. All right, so I'll let this finish, and then we'll continue. Okay, so it's all done. So you can see we've gone from here to here to here to here.